Good morning, Cincinnati, and welcome to another episode of the Bearcat Brunch, brought to you by Royal Links Golf Tours. Have you ever wanted to play golf at St. Andrews? Have you ever wanted a perfect pint of Guinness in Ireland? Or have dreamt of playing at Ballybunion? Royal Links Golf Tours is a golf tour specialist offering unforgettable experiences in Scotland, England, Ireland, and Wales. Their custom itineraries are more than golf trips. They're immersive cultural and country experiences that will surprise and delight you both on and off the course. Royal Links Golf Tours is owned by former Bearcat quarterback Hayden Moore and his partner, UC alum Jeff Bartholomew. If you'd like to play St. Andrews or Ballybunion or enjoy that perfect pint of Guinness in Ireland, visit their website at royallinksgolftours.com or call them at 770-331-1525. And with that, we are live for another edition Bearcat Brunch, coming to you after the 16th straight Cincinnati victory in the battle for the Victory Bell. Final score 38-17 on the banks of the Ohio River. Lovely Paycor Stadium. Nice, sunny, hot, mid-September day. Good morning, Jeff. How are we?
I'm doing all right. You're trying to really dress up what is an awful venue for a college football game.
Yeah, it wasn't great. We'll get into the elements of that and the what I would call lackluster game day in-game experience. Hat tip right off the bat to everybody at UC. We can argue about what songs we'd like to hear. At least it was at least it's entertaining. That was not. But anyway, Bearcats, like I said, 38-17. Another win.
Yeah.
Move the record to 2-1 on the season.
59-7 in the
Yes,
series.
yes. For all those that haven't heard, it's the first time they've had the lead in the series since 1915. I feel like that stat has been said more than a couple times.
I think it gets said a lot just because it seems so it seems so ridiculous that UC hasn't led in this series since then.
Right,
because
and it's taken 16 straight wins for them to take the overall series lead.
Right.
There were clearly some lean years in there at some point in time in this series.
Well, considering Luke Fickell is going to become the winningest coach in UC history this year, barring some kind of craziness, it hasn't taken him all that long to get to that number.
No, 6-0 against Miami, got his 50th win yesterday. So on the right track. Good morning, Darren. Good morning, Keith. Thanks for joining. So as we do every episode at the top, just kind of what is your big takeaway from the UC win?
I want to put this out there. Ben Bryant, 26 for 35, 337 yards, 2 touchdowns, and an interception that was kind of a tip ball. It is what it is. McClellan, 18 carries, 101 yards, and 2 touchdowns. And there are people on Twitter that are going like just off the rails saying that those guys need to be on the bench, that those aren't the guys that we want on the team, on the first team. Let's say people need to realize that whenever teams get to the level UC's at and get to the level UC wants to get to, there are going to be guys on the bench that are good enough to start. But maybe they're not better than the guys that are starting or being featured more.
I think some of those people were sitting 3 rows behind me.
You just got to, yes, Corey Kiner is good. Yes, Evan Prater is probably going to be very good. But right now, it's these guys, and they aren't doing anything to say, put me on the bench. So why are we still seeing this crap?
I'm not into like scolding people. I mean, you have your opinion, right, wrong, and different. Like, who am I to tell you like, oh no, that's absolutely wrong. I try not to get into that. The thing that I do want to kind of say along those lines is it feels like everything, maybe because of last year, maybe because of the last few years, whatever you want to call it, like it feels like some things are being held up to perfection. And one, that's just, I mean, that's not really obtainable, especially in college. If you look around the entire sport, like there's about 2 or 3 teams that shoot for true perfection. And I just think we have, and we as some fans just have selective, not memory, but selective talking points. Like the interception you mentioned. I don't think it was a great throw. Ben would probably tell you it wasn't a great throw. It was probably a little bit late. It was behind, hit the receiver in the hands. Should he have caught it? Maybe. He was getting hit. Like things happen. Interception. We want to harp on that. But has anyone talked about the damn seed perfect ball he threw to Tyler Scott for a 41-yard touchdown?
No.
Like I just, yes, I get it. Like turnovers, bad plays get amplified. They're more, I guess they're more like maybe it's because people don't really truly understand like some of the intricacies of play calling and play development and what a guy's supposed to do and not supposed to do. And so when there's a turnover, you just instantly are like, well, that was just a bad play. So that, get him out, whatever. He's no good, blah, 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 whoever the player is. But like, there's not an equal balance of like, Ben starting 12 for 12, Ben doing a really, in my mind, a really good job of letting things develop. Like he hung in the pocket a lot yesterday, and granted they took 3 sacks, and I think part of that is on this, what I would call again, a very aggressive passing game plan.
Mm-hmm.
And some of those things are just going to happen. But like understand that some of the throws he's making are to second, third, fourth reads or back to a first read even when a guy crosses and becomes open. And dude hung in there yesterday and waited on guys. And as Chad and Aaron talked about last night, again, a bunch of 15-plus yard throws. I guess I have a hard time listening to anybody, regardless of opponent, that wants to talk about, replacing someone that is 75% for over 300 yards, 2 touchdowns, interception. Like, what is your expectation then? Like, what do you think should be happening? Like an 85% passer with 0 sacks, 0 interceptions, like every read is right, every throw is on the mark, there's no incompletions, the other team isn't trying. Like, I guess I'm just trying to grasp then, if that's not good enough, then what is? I guess what is good enough then?
That's what I was trying to get at, and I get it, like with like the running back situation, because I've said it here and I've said it on Pardon the Punctuation. I've said it on numerous places that I feel like our running back core really is kind of plug and play as far as like depending on the situation and whatnot. Like you can pretty much pull each one out, put the other one in, and you're not really seeing. You're going to get a different style back, but you're not really seeing any drop off. It just kind of surprised me that yesterday was the day, and I guess because Kiner didn't, he had 7 carries, like 30 yards, touchdown. I guess it was just more so because yesterday it popped up everywhere on Twitter alongside the Bryant things, like and I see over here like there, who is it? Scott was saying that it's like a Cincinnati high school thing. Like I went to, or Keith above him said it's a Cincinnati high school thing. I went to the same high school that Evan Prater went to, and I can't wait to see him play every day for the Bearcats. I hope he stays with the Bearcats, and that's a thing. But you have to recognize that what Ben Bryant is doing is working. It's more than serviceable. And like you said, he starts 12 for 12, really 13 for 13 if Mardner's toe is like a half an inch inside the end zone there, which it wasn't, so the incompletion. But like, I don't know what anybody else, what you could want out of a quarterback than what Ben Bryant's doing. I think a lot of people might be hung up on the first half of the Arkansas game. Maybe I don't know.
He had a bad half. He's played pretty darn good in the second half of that game, in the first half of the Kennesaw game, and yesterday against Miami. I do want to bring, Scott mentioned, I think people are much more frustrated with the lack of reps for Corey than Ben. starting over Prater. And I get it. Like, I think Chuck had a pretty mixed bag yesterday. I mean, he ran the ball pretty well, but he had a fumble and he had a drop that could have resulted in should have resulted in an interception that was dropped by their guy. I feel like the running game is still just like something's just, not quite click. Like, they'll bust a good run, but there's still too many, I'm feeling like there's still too many no gain type 1 yard type plays. But again, like,
technically 2 fumbles because of the muff punt also.
Oh, on the kickoff or whatever?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah. But like, I think Coach Fickle even alluded to it after the game. Like, he wasn't exactly sure why Corey wasn't in, more so, I don't know. I mean, we don't know what is going on like in game. If a guy is
tweak something,
not feeling good, they feel like Chuck is doing the right things on the plays that he's not getting the ball. Like, there's so much that goes into it that it's hard for me, without knowing the game plan, without talking to anybody, to go, why didn't you play Corey Kiner more? I don't know. Like, if Corey, if everything was good, I mean, granted, they still only ran. I mean, Chuck only carried the ball 18 times, so it wasn't like they were running it a ton. But it's hard for, it's stuff that I try not to get into because I just don't know. Like, I feel like, that's Sam Ass isn't that fixed job to find out why he isn't in there. It doesn't work as much like that. Like, the position coaches manage the rotations and the players, and he might go and ask, like, what's up with Corey, but he's also maybe not going to say in a post-game press conference the truth, if it's something that he doesn't want out there. Like, the head coach is way into, like, the intricacies of the game itself, clock time, down and distance, all those things, to pay a ton of attention to, like, who's going in and who's coming out on a play-by-play basis. I'm still going to, the offense to me it was a weird day. Like, at times could not be stopped. Three touchdown drives over 70 yards. Had several other drives that, were in the 35 to 50 yard range that didn't cash. And then at times it was like three and out on 5 yards or the turnovers.
Killed them.
They were a huge problem, especially in the first half. Like, they just set Miami up too well. All credit to Miami on that first drive. Like, they didn't have a third down on the first drive. Like, they came out, they scripted that's the thing. They scripted a real nice first 15.
And then after that,
I mean, we'll get into the numbers when we talk about the defense, but after that, they had no answers whatsoever.
Got shut down after that.
And, Nick mentioned that maybe it seems that with Gino's offense and trying to be more aggressive, trying to be more explosive, that maybe it lends itself more to Chuck and his home run ability that Corey doesn't necessarily have. I agree with part of that, but there's also a lot of between the guard Chuck runs. And granted, he popped, several of his longer runs were in that realm, but that seems maybe that's the time to start wearing on the defense with Corey. I don't, again, we're trying to parse through things that we don't have a full understanding of or answers to. We're just trying to, lay things out, and people can decide how they want to decide. I thought the offense was fairly good, though. I mean, the unfortunate part about our podcast today is that the site that I use to get kind of like the nitty-gritty analytical data and everything goes off of ESPN.com's Gamecast and can only do it if there's a play-by-play.
Yeah.
And for some reason, UC Miami had no play-by-play.
I always go back to the play-by-play when it's over to start taking notes.
And the website's called Games on Paper. But yet Long Island versus Toledo had a play-by-play.
Up in the press box, the StatCast that Miami provided also went out about halfway through the game. So I don't know if that has anything.
It could have been. I mean,
if there's any correlation or not. But
yeah, and I talked to the guy that runs the site this morning actually because I asked him about where it was, and he's like, and then Purdue, Syracuse didn't have it. So it's very strange. He's like, there's no rhyme or reason to why some of these games have it and some don't. So like I won't have all of the stuff that we usually try to talk about. The one I was kind of able to pull was yards per play because it was so good last week and it was still pretty good this week, 6.6 yards per play, which would be about in the 70th percentile, which is, it's okay. It's not super. It's better than average, but I don't have like explosive rate. I don't have success rate. I don't have, all the stuff that we've kind of talked about the last few weeks.
Yeah, I usually go down that play-by-play like the night, like right before I go to bed. I go down the play-by-play and kind of try and pick out a couple things and I pulled it up, and the only thing that was there was the scoring summary, and I'm like, this doesn't help me at all. I already know.
They have the play-by-play on the official game book on UC's site, but it's harder to parse through. It's just very very technical to like the exact thing with the player's number. It's just harder to read through.
I pulled it up on CBS, and CBS credited UC with every single score throughout the entire game, so that was not helpful at all.
Yeah.
But anyway.
But I mean, the offense, again, 3 weeks in, top 25 yards per attempt, which is a number that I look at a lot. Top 25 pass game rating. Some of that obviously buoyed by Evan last week, but the vast majority of it is Ben. And I'm just kind of left, 7 for 14 on third down again. They're 17th ranked nationally, third down conversion rate. Like those are the numbers that tell you whether you have a good offense or not. Yards per attempt, third down rate. Like I'm having a hard time. If you want to just nitpick every single throw, then that by all means go for it. It seems like a rough way to go through a game or go through a season, if that's the way you're gonna look at it. I kind of try to look at it in the totality of it all. Like he had a great feathered throw. I think it was to Trey. It was going towards the Miami student section where it was like over a linebacker and then in between like three other DBs. That I'm just like, that's such a money accurate throw that not a lot of guys can make. And
well, there was another, like there was a set of back-to-back throws where UC had just given up touch, so it was 17-7. Their following drive, he hits Trey Tucker with an absolute dart over the middle. I think it's the one that Aaron referred to last night as when Tucker was like frozen in the air, like Mario punching a brick, waiting for the ball to, like, as he like jumped and then and then Ben saw him and hit him. It was a 31-yard completion, and then immediately after that, he threw a pass that was eerily similar to the interception at the beginning of the Arkansas game to Tyler Scott, but this time he put like a whole lot behind it,
right,
and got it out there. Those are the kinds of things that we talked about, 2 weeks ago when we said like, hey, we don't really like that throw very much, but if you're going to make it, like you have to commit to it, and that's going to happen. Those kind of timing things are going to happen, and I mean it was another, like, I think another first down, like back to back right there.
Yeah. I mean, we're 3 games in. I think Arkansas, regardless of their interesting game yesterday, is still pretty damn good. Like their offense is still pretty damn explosive. Kennesaw is what it is. Miami is a very solid MAC team. So, it's tough to judge necessarily, all told. But the offense as a whole looks much more dynamic, much more innovative, much more pro concept driven. and they just have a lot of weapons that are going to put teams in bad spots. And you're 3 games in with a new quarterback. Great, yes, he's been here, but not taking first team reps ever when he was here, really. And you're still breaking in a lot of things. And I think that's where you see, the penalties. It's, people, we're going to harp on the penalties. They got to do better. I mean, they're never going to be like a very, very low penalty type team. And sure, a bunch of those were 3 or 4 of those were just in the drive that Evan was in at the end.
Yeah, that was, and that's going to happen when you're bringing in a bunch of guys that hadn't played in the game yet, and they all come in, and then some timing things are off. And
I'm more hung up on the fumbles because
absolutely
the 2 that were recovered by Miami were not those were not big hits. They were not blindsided by guys. They were pretty run of the mill, like just get an arm in there. That should not force a fumble. And, that led them to 10 points that, they could not move the ball.
I told Aaron it reminded me of, I had just, I missed, the first quarter and a half because I was at my son's pony 4th grade football game, and it reminded me a lot of the kids carrying the ball there because it's just a kid runs up and just kind of hits him in the arm,
the ball, and
there it goes, and then everybody's diving for it. So that kind of stuff is, like you said, it wasn't like a Derek Forrest style blow up that caused those fumbles.
I think we've seen though when they are humming, when they that offense can do damage in a hurry, and I'm always gonna be willing to take a little bit of the, you don't want the mistakes, but if the trade-off is pushing the ball down the field with a quarterback that has a lot of confidence in his arm and a lot of confidence in his receivers, and yes, maybe you get an interception here and there, maybe you take a sack because you're trying to extend a play or you're waiting for a guy to get open and he just I'm going to accept those things because the way that they're being aggressive and trying to be explosive and understanding that the defense is not as good as last year, but is still pretty good. And teams are really going to have a hard time going 8, 10, 12 plays on them, that we don't want to go those type of drives. We need to be quick strike. And the drives yesterday were actually fairly long in plays, even with the quick strike capabilities. But, I have to get to this one. How many Jello shots were had? Well, not as many as next week, probably, because the noon gamers, it's a late rising crowd getting down there. We weren't on, just like the Bearcats were slow starters yesterday. The Simone family tailgate had a little bit of a slow start.
You get stuck in the traffic jam down there?
No,
whatever was going on?
We won't get into it because Mrs. Mrs. Bearcat Journal, Mama Bearcat Journal, Twitter is probably listening, so I'm not going to pin all the fault on her. little late start. We'll just leave it at that. But it was still a good tailgate. Chad was able to stop by. So we had a good time, and we'll be ready to go 3:30 Saturday, Indiana. But yeah, so let's I think we kind of talked what we needed to talk about offense. Let's move over to the defensive side. I think the big number that stands out to me after going down 17-7, not counting the drive right before half where Miami just took a knee. 9 drives, 34 plays, 85 yards, 2.5 yards per play. 3 drives of those 9 went for negative yards.
And again, seemed like Ivan Pace was everywhere. There was a play where he came, Luke mentioned his post-game presser that they moved him more to the middle linebacker spot.
Inside, yeah, I heard that.
And there was a play where he came through the middle, and I'm pretty sure it was the nose tackle that engaged him, and he just shrugged him off and chased Smith down from behind. 2 steps got him. And he just his ability to see the play happening and unfolding in front of him and get to where he needs to be is something special. There was that one. I had another note about him. It was actually the pace to pace connection, where he came up through the middle. Miami's quarterback was falling back very rapidly and had to get rid of the ball. And when he did, whoever the kid was he was throwing it to, unfortunately had Deshaun Pace about a half an inch in front of his face and blew that one up.
Oh yeah, on the kind of like a bubble jailbreak type screenplay.
Yep. And then that led to Jaden Thomas's good return on the punt, right there, leading I think into the score that actually I guess that led to a field goal.
Yeah,
I think that ended up leading to a field goal.
Pace leads the way again. 8 tackles, a sack, 2 tackles for loss. 3 other guys: Arquan Bush, Quan Shepard, Byron Threats, 5 tackles. Threats credited with a sack. Juwan Briggs had a sack. JQ Hardaway had a sack. But I mean that defense yesterday, like outside of the first drive, like I said, that Miami scripted a really nice first 15. But once they got their bearings, I mean, they could not run the ball outside of outside of the first drive, the Mac Hippenhammer show.
Yep.
They could not challenge UC downfield at all.
They're kind of trying to pick on Arquan Bush a little bit.
Yeah, and I think, I wanted to bring that up in that, again, you have to have someone that you're confident in putting out there if you're going to talk about making a change. And my personal view is that I think Arquan is better in the slot than he is on the boundary. Or the field, I get confused sometimes. Yeah. But just on the outside, I think he's better in the slot. Now, you then need someone that you feel confident to put outside if you're going to move him back inside. And right now, they have more confidence in Taj Ward and Sammy Anderson inside and Arquan outside than Arquan in and Field. Yes, thank you, Field. But I don't know. I don't know if we get to that point soon, if we never get to that point. I feel like he plays better in the confined space that is the slot. I think he loses his bearings a little bit when and he did have the nice, come back with the nice interception on a very, very similar play to the one that got beat on for the touchdown. But I just feel like he kind of loses his bearings a little bit the longer the play develops. I remember the one Alabama long touchdown was on him in the Cotton Bowl on a down the sideline type play. So I just wonder if it's JQ as the season progresses. I know everyone's super excited about JQ and he's the next Sauce and he's already 6'3" and whatever, but like we're still 3 games in, true freshman, a lot of learning, lot of understanding, a lot of how you study tape, how you recognize routes, all of those things take time. So
I think it goes back. It's kind of the same issue that we have everywhere else is like people, whether they're like doing it on purpose or not, are like subconsciously comparing him to what just left here. And you can't do that. It's the best cornerback in college football and the best player to ever play at UC who happened to also be a cornerback. Like it was like they both won the Thorpe Award kind of thing. Like it is what it is. Like people are starting, I think, in their heads comparing that, and so like one little mistake, a 5-yard reception that gets allowed, and they're like, get rid of him. They pull the Aaron like DFA everybody, like bring in somebody else. He's doing an all right job. He probably does do better in the slot, but then, like you said, you got to have somebody else for the outside that you're confident is going to do a as good or better job than what he does. And if you don't feel that way, then there's no reason to make the change.
Right. And Tony brings up the point. Whoever it is, they have to take, that's the thing, they have to take the position from him. And that's the thing for any position. Like, just because a guy is struggling or does something wrong on a specific play does not mean they're going to make a change, because the person behind them has to prove that they are ready and able to give a better effort, to be better than that person. Like, you don't just take a guy out for the sake of taking him out, especially in football. Like, that just doesn't happen. You have to, what's Luke always talk about with freshmen? Like, you earn trust on special teams. If we can put you out there on special teams as a freshman and you perform and you start to earn our trust, then you start to earn our trust in offense, defense snaps. And it's a process. I do want to say thank you, Jeff. Show sponsor, Jeff Bartholomew. Appreciate
Thanks,
your
great name.
Yes, that's right. Appreciate your sponsorship. I'm gonna be reaching out this week. Let Hayden know. Love to have him on next week's show to maybe talk a little Indiana and first 4 games if he's able and willing. So, but yeah, I mean, it's just an idea. Like, believe me, I'm not saying it in the sense of like, the coaches are idiots because they're not doing this or whatever. Like, but it's just something that I observe and have observed over the years, that I just think he's a really good slot guy, and I'm just not sure that he's an outside guy. But you have to have someone that you have confidence in to give you as much or more if you're going to make a move. Like, you're not just going to make a move. You're not going to move 2 people if you don't think you're going to get better production. Like, you don't make the move if you think you're just going to get the same production.
Right. Because then you would have to do that. Then you would have to say that Arquan's going to give you, significantly better production in the slot.
So, I'm sorry, I was reading the question. It was a lot. Anything else defensively?
No, I mean, I think they.
It was
like just this kind of beating the same drum of the first possession is what it. The first series there for Miami was what it was. Like, it was well done, well scripted, and then after that, UC was like, we're not. I don't think we're gonna have that anymore.
Yeah, I mean, I think the 4 sacks. I feel like overall though the coverage was good, because it felt like the sacks were very much coverage sacks. The way that they were running their offense, especially with that type of a quarterback, like, they weren't just going to 5-step drop him, let him hang, go through his progressions and try to, like, it was very much one read, quick game, a lot of quick slants, a lot of quick game, a lot of movement from the quarterback. The one long throw he had in the second half on their scoring drive, or when they got down there and then didn't score, but like the hard roll and then the throw back to the other side. Like, they were doing a good job of making sure that there were as few bodies around him as possible. So to get 4 sacks, a lot of that was coverage. A lot of that was him moving outside the pocket, especially in the second half. There was a lot of him moving out and, couple throwaways, couple times where he ran out of bounds. But yeah, there just weren't a lot of lanes and routes, and we'll see next week. I mean, obviously, Chad and I'll get into Indiana on next week, but like, their whole offense is throw. Like, they struggle / can't run the ball, and so we're gonna get a test. We're gonna see like how much
they're 3-0, right?
They are. They have some very win adjusted. I'm not sure that all 3-0s
are the same.
But yeah, but they're gonna chuck it. So we'll get a good idea of like where the DBs are, where the pass rush is, things of that nature.
See, Dave Sullivan over here is asking if we're going to get into the UCF pulling a UCF, and they played a top 25 team, so we'll probably talk about it for a minute.
Tyler and Dave asked kind of AAC questions, and I don't want steal all of Aaron and Chad's content for the nightcap tonight. But yes, we will talk briefly about Houston, Kansas, because it was Kansas, and briefly about the very end of a very much UCF football game. When we get to the entirety of the sport, I do want to talk about Mason Fletcher.
There's another special teams guy that I was going to give a shout out to. So
a dude. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I guess we should. That, the camp that they're coming from, the group they're coming from in Australia, obviously is putting out guys. But like, I don't think anybody could have expected to go from James Smith, and I'm not comparing the two, but like, literally not much, if any, drop off. Like, I don't remember. Maybe one last year. Like, has he shanked a punt? Just straight up shanked a punt?
I can't remember one.
Like, we see dudes in college doing some amazingly terrible things, whether it's getting punts blocked, whether it's shanking punts. I mean, UC's been part of that reason for the last several years. I mean, blocking kicks, forcing bad kicks. Again, like, great kicking when they were backed up. I know he only kicked a couple times, but I mean, it's a weapon, man. When you have a defense like they have, and you have an offense that can score like they can, having a punter like that is a huge weapon.
So the one that you're talking about when UC was backed up, the 73-yard bomb, there was a new name out on the field that I've been talking about him kind of when we do like after shows and stuff with Chad, and like I text Chad about him and whatnot. But Drew Donnelly.
Yeah.
And if you watch, so he's a 10-5. He's like a 10-5 100-meter guy in high school. His cousin goes to Georgia and is really, really fast. So that's kind of how he pops up on my radar. And to see him, he's a receiver. So we'll probably see him in the next few years. He's another 4.2 40 guy, 10-5 100 guy, but he was down the field like right now on that punt and was able to smother the tackle there and secure the 73-yard punt for Fletch.
With Will Pauling being injured and Trey Tucker nursing something, I mean, he looked pretty damn good for yesterday for nursing something, but they didn't put him on any special teams. Like, you're going to have a new gunner out there. And Drew got some snaps, I noticed, on that drive for wide receiver when on the actual offensive drive when they were backed up.
Oh, did they?
He was in at wide receiver on that. But yeah, I mean, they did have the one punt, gave up the one punt return where the Gunners ran past the guy thinking he was going to fair catch it, and then he didn't.
He pulled like a Trent Taylor who never fair catches anything.
Unless you see it, I don't think you're supposed to run by the guy.
But
all in all, Ryan Coe's great at kickoffs. I mean, I want to get into this, what you think. Okay, so because part of me totally understands it, and part of me thinks it's chicken shit.
I think I know where you're going with this. That
after the game, Chuck Martin said that like we were not going to return a single kickoff, and we were going to do their whatever, their squibby, whatever, like pooch kicking every time because we just didn't want to mess with their special teams. And part of me is like, okay, I get it. Like, that's what you think you need to do to win the game, blah, blah, blah.
And that's how you end up with Ryan Mullaney on the Cincinnati kick returns. And
then part of me is like, dude, if you think that doing that is going to win you the game, you like, or give you a chance to win the game, then you got other things you need to, like, I don't know. I just don't like it. Like, just kick the damn ball off, man.
I was wondering, like, I didn't know. Like I said, I missed like the beginning of the game, and like you see them, and I'm just like, did I miss them like saying something like at the beginning of the game, like their kicker was out, or like they have to use somebody else to kick today, so they're not confident he's not going to kick it out of bounds, so he just squib. Like I was very confused, and and I missed his comments after the game, so now I see that he thought that was like the winning strategy.
Well, I guess he just thinks. I mean, and great, it's a compliment. Like, we think your special teams are so good. Your speed covering kicks, obviously your speed returning kicks. I get the squibbing kick thing from there. Like, don't let Tyler Sky, Trey Tucker return a kick. I get that part. The not returning any of UC's kicks, like, are you afraid you're going to get a holding penalty and you're going to start a drive at the 10? Like, are your returners as fast as me and you? Like,
right.
I don't understand, like, we're not going to return a single kickoff.
Yeah.
Like, we think we can do no better than starting every drive at the 25-yard line.
That, I don't know. That's very strange. Like I said, I didn't hear him say that at the end. So like now that kind of makes, I mean, it doesn't make sense, but I see what was happening now.
I mean, I guess, whatever.
But like squibbing it, like I also don't necessarily understand that. Like you squib it and you're kind of, I mean, you're giving up essentially a decent return. Like,
yeah, the one squib they kicked, we started at like the 40.
Yeah, I think that was the one that Ryan Mulaney got.
So it's like, was that really that much better than if you just kicked it deep and covered the damn kick?
Right. Or like,
your kicker can't, can your kicker not get it to the end zone?
And that's the other thing. Like, if your kicker can't kick it out of the back of the end zone, which is what you would, want to do if you're just giving these things up, like boot it out of the end zone, let them start where they're going to start. Like,
kick it high to like the 10-yard line and make them call for a fair catch there.
And sometimes, like, the thing is, like, those squib kicks can get, like, they get kind of squirrely on the ground. Like,
yeah, they had the one that,
who knows what happens with it. Like, somebody comes up and picks it up and takes off running, and now you're giving up all kinds of extra yards because you're scared of what might happen if you kick it to one of these guys. Like you said, that's a compliment.
Yeah, it was interesting. I just, I get it, but then part of me is just like, whatever. So I don't know why this, I guess we can kind of wrap on this. Like the big, discussion coming into the season was like, what are the Bearcats going to play in third down or on, in between the third and fourth quarters? Or is there going to be a new kickoff song, or is Pump It Up going to leave? Is Narco going to be here? What's going to happen? Well, I can tell you whatever they choose to do is better than what Miami did in between the third and fourth quarter, which was a big game of musical beanbag chairs.
What?
Yes. They had cheerleaders playing musical beanbag chairs in the end zone, like with some sort of background music, or like it was the most basic, uninspiring, like Indiana's was even better, and I made fun of Indiana's because their in between third, fourth quarter song was John Mellencamp. And granted, he's from Indiana, so I guess it kind of makes sense. But like, it was just, I mean, it felt like very 1995. Like, Welcome to the Jungle was their kickoff song, which, okay, whatever. Like, I like it because I'm a Bengals fan, and I like, that type of music. But right. Other than that, it was a weird game day environment from a production standpoint.
Well, I mean, they were getting thrown around all over the place. The pictures of like the students, comparing the student sections to each other, and like Aaron sent some pictures from where he was at there. He was the first one he sent. Actually, I guess it was like the UCLA pictures, but I'll get into that in a minute because I have a question for you. Reference that whole situation.
Sure.
But I don't like using NFL stadiums. They don't have the same. You don't get the same feeling. It's not it looks weird. And then when you play a team like, a MAC team, and you can't fill the stadium, and then it's empty. And
for sure.
It's not. It was good for UC. Like, you could hear UC's fans. Like, obviously, like half of them can roll out of bed and get on a skateboard and roll down the hill and end up at Paycor Stadium. So,
Yeah, I
Miami's
mean,
got to like drive
it's
there.
not ideal. It's like the tailgate. When we were in lot 1, tailgate lot was full. It was a good tailgate scene. But yeah, it's just the stadiums are built for different things.
Purposes.
Like
Yeah.
they're and yeah, it's just I know, but we get into that all the time, and it's a dead horse that's been beaten to death. So
Right.
But I don't see it going away. The series, the whole thing at Paul Brown is I guess somewhat of a compromise to not the every other game at Miami, which I get. I mean,
I would still rather go play. I mean, I don't know
but that's the thing is they've played plenty of times at Miami, and they never have that many UC fans. So you're still getting, when they announced the attendance, just over 30,000. So I'm sure it was, probably something in like the 23 to 7 range, 20 to 10 range. I don't know if there were 10,000 Miami fans there, but you're still getting 20,000-ish UC fans at a quote unquote road game. They never bring that many to Miami.
You don't think that now with the way that the team is that they wouldn't they
might.
Kids wouldn't want to go up there.
We haven't played there since 2018 or whatever it was. The Malik Clements game, but
Yager Stadium holds 25,000.
For 2017, yeah.
They downsized it by 6,000 seats in 2005.
Never close to full.
So
even when UC goes there. So
fair.
I don't know. Well, yeah.
Which brings me to the I know we're going to start talking about like around the NCAA coming up here now. So this was kind of a question I had when I saw the tweet come out, because it came out from Troy Aikman, vaunted UCLA alum, and it was in reference to the pictures circulating on social media of the 15 people in the Rose Bowl for the UCLA game. I don't even know who they played yesterday.
They played South Alabama and probably should have lost.
Lost, yeah. I knew it was like another one of those like whatever, but Troy Aikman said that it's about time that UCLA stops playing in the Rose Bowl. He said that they couldn't even fill it when he was there, and now it's just embarrassing, and they should just build a 30,000 seat stadium on campus and have their games there.
Sure. Where are they building a 30,000 seat stadium in
LA?
In the middle of campus in LA? That's a great idea in theory, I guess. but yeah, I saw some tweets about like whoever did the counting for that. Like there was obviously not even close to the number of people that they said was there. But yeah, we joke about it, and it's easy to joke about for us at this point. But like we weren't. Go back and find some pictures from the Memphis game, Tuberville's last year. Tell me how many people were at that one. Like, it's easy to make jokes and everything. But it's a problem all over the place. One year, like the LSU Mississippi State game wasn't sold out last night. There's the ticket prices at a lot of these places have gotten outrageous for college sports. And like we've talked about how many times in various platforms, like the experience of being at home and being able to have 4 TVs or whatever and spend all afternoon watching all the games has become such a big part that people yesterday we're in the lot at like a little before 9, game, come back. Like we didn't get home till like, probably like between 5, 6 o'clock. So I don't see much of anything.
Yeah.
And some people just don't want to.
Well, you didn't miss a whole lot of great games yesterday. So
no, there wasn't a lot of great. That's for sure.
No. But that is
we're on a collision course to Georgia, Alabama part 2.
Yeah, Georgia looks
So
like
good.
very, very good, and I don't know that there really is a team close to them.
Brock
I mean,
Bowers is just insane. Their tight end for anybody that
yeah,
doesn't know. But yeah, I mean,
and Stetson Bennett is I mean, like I said it, I think the first week when I said, is Georgia the greatest team of all time? I mean, the dude's story is crazy, and there's going to be a Disney movie made someday. But they are just that good.
he's gonna be in the running for the Heisman if they just keep winning.
I mean, he's 16 for 23, 284 yards and 2 touchdowns passing, and 3 carries for 36 yards and a touchdown. And then Bowers was 5 receptions, 121 yards and 2 touchdowns.
He's ridiculous.
I mean, and they played South Carolina, so SEC win.
Yeah, and gave up 7. That was the first touchdown they've given up all year.
And it was probably to
At the very it was at the end of the game.
It's the the joke I made about Miami not letting UC have their recruits there was because they didn't want them to let them get in and play at the end of the game. That was probably Georgia's recruits that were out on the field when that got scored.
Mm-hmm.
It's ridiculous.
But okay, so where do you want to start around the?
We just started at number 1, so let's go to number 2. Alabama and UL Monroe. That was over pretty quick. They scored. Alabama scored 3 touchdowns. One from offense, one from defense, one from special teams in the first 6 minutes of the game.
Oh,
so
okay,
that was
efficient.
Yes, Will Anderson got his first pick 6.
I guess those practices got a little bit harder this week after the Texas game.
Right. And then Toledo really put up a not very big fight to the 77 points Ohio State hung on them.
Jeez.
Ohio State did not take their foot off the gas. Scored 21 points in the fourth quarter after scoring 28, 14, 14, and then 21. So
Marvin Harrison Jr., a dude.
Yeah, he didn't. It doesn't look like he landed on the little deal over here.
He had like 2 or 3 touchdowns.
Yeah, but on the on the side of the the highlighted players, he's not one of them. C.J. Stroud, Hayden, their running back, and Egbuka. Can't ever say his name right. I'm sure that's probably wrong. He had 7 receptions, 116 yards, and a touchdown. Hayden had 17 carries and 108 yards and a touchdown. Stroud was 22 for 27, 367 yards and 5 touchdowns. So there you go. I guess it's kind of a crapshoot of who they put up on that one.
Let's jump to Penn State.
You don't want to talk about Michigan, UConn?
No, I don't want to talk about Michigan, UConn. I don't want to talk about any of these Kentucky, Youngstown State. I don't want to talk about any of these bloodbath games. But
USC. Yeah, it didn't get close until Arkansas, Missouri State.
Auburn. I did get to see some of that, and Penn State just big boyed those dudes up and down the field. And you've got to think that the Brian Harsin days are in the similar vein to the Scott Frost days, coming near to a close.
Do we know when his buyout drops? Because it'll be about a month and a half before that he.
I don't think he has any interesting contract language to that degree.
Fair.
So, but yeah, he's cooked. So yeah, they've been.
You're not gonna hang around there.
They basically ran the AD out, who was the only reason he got hired, because the AD finally stood up to the boosters and said, "I'm going to do this," and so they did it, or he did it, and then they waited a couple of years and ran the AD out, and now they're going to fire Harsin, which is just like I talked about on the BCJ podcast, that they're not going to go after. I have a hard time believing they're going to go after a guy like Luke. They're probably going to maybe like a Lane Kiffin, but it just to the point is how much money do you think they're going to spend on their next coach? All of it.
Right.
I
mean, Nebraska's going to spend. I know you said
whoever the next Auburn coach is, I will be stunned if they're not a $9 million head coach.
Well, I mean that's kind of the name of the game now. Like you're gonna have to do those kinds of things. I mean, I would have to think with like the expansion of the playoff, like recruiting is going to get a little bit easier for some of the higher, like the kind of the mid range to lower tier high.
Sure, you can
in that
sell
high
like
bracket
we're going to have a
because-
shot at the playoff every year at a
Right.
Penn State,
Yeah.
at an Auburn. Like
At a UC, so like
Auburn's won a national championship in the last 15 years. Like
who was their coach when that happened?
Their coach was Gene Chizik. And their quarterback was Cam Newton. That might have had something more to do with it.
A little bit.
But yeah, I mean, like you can just sell. Like, yeah, we're pretty damn good. Now we can probably make the playoff almost every year. But that was just like I thought Penn State would win, but I did not see that type of like the way they ran the ball. You know, everybody always said, "Wow, they still got an SEC defensive line." Well, they just kind of did whatever they wanted offensively.
Singleton had 10 carries, 124 yards, and 2 touchdowns. Yeah. Seems like he was just doing what I mean. That's 12 yards a carry. So,
speaking of $9 million coaches, Mel Tucker, Michigan State, Washington.
I was gonna say that's what I was gonna bring up next because former Indiana quarterback Michael Penix Jr.
just lit them up.
24 for 40, 397 yards and 4 touchdowns.
Michigan State, I don't know what they have. Their DBs suck, and they've sucked 2 years in a row, and I don't know why. And they can't run the ball either. But Tucker's got. He's basically a 500 record as a head coach, and they just gave him an extension last year because they were afraid that LSU might talk to him when LSU really had no interest in hiring him.
Right,
and then now they're on the hook for a whole lot of money if this doesn't work out.
That might be one that they just have to ride out for a little bit.
I think they're going to.
Like, number 11 down, gone. Oregon, BYU. Oregon handled BYU fairly easily. They should start dropping down a little bit there.
Yeah, I think that is I think we can officially confirm that their game against Georgia had a lot more to do with Georgia being awesome than them being terrible.
Yeah.
I think BYU is dog tired too. Like they went to South Florida week 1, then came home and played Baylor, then go play Oregon. Like that's South Florida, whatever, but like that's a tough go to start your season.
I did see somebody tweeted out like they're like I'm making me laugh how many times I'm hearing like BYU's tight end when he's not hitting the weight room, he runs a successful drywalling business with his 3 kids because like all their guys are like 26, 27 years old,
For sure.
It's kind of funny there.
Arkansas, Missouri State. That was I wanted so, but like again, this never would have happened, but like how great would it have been if like Missouri State won and Bobby Petrino just like rides off on a motorcycle like right down the middle of the field, with
like a razorback head just like in one hand.
Yeah, he's just holding up a pig head while he drives, But no, then they had the lead, and then Arkansas did what good teams are supposed to do. You have a 73-yard touchdown run, then you bring back a 80-yard punt return and slam the door on that real fast.
Yeah. KJ Jefferson was all right. 19 for 31, 385, and 2 touchdowns. So, I mean, we've seen him play. We know what he's capable of and what he can do.
Good. So you want to get in? Which do you want to start with? Houston, Kansas, or USF doing USF things?
Let's talk about USF doing USF things.
Those are AAC games. I don't know if you're allowed to touch on them.
Well, one of them was against the top 25 team, sir.
One of them was against a ranked opponent.
Sir. Thank you.
He wakes up to tell us that.
I think we could. Well, I'm going to start on that game and say, like, I'm glad we didn't award Anthony Richardson the Heisman, after
the first week?
After his first game where he I'm pretty sure he didn't throw a touchdown pass in that game either, or maybe he threw one.
I don't think he's thrown one yet.
Because his last 2 games have stunk to high hell. So
I thought I saw a stat that he hadn't thrown a touchdown.
I thought I did too, but then I'm like, wait a second, I felt like he had to have thrown one in the game. Maybe he had a rushing touchdown or 2 rushing touchdowns in the Utah game. But that's kind of like a bigger point of like 3 games in, the way Luke, and Luke brought this up, about how it's like the only sport that we don't have scrimmages, we don't have exhibition games, we don't have any, like 3 games in, like you're still very much, depending on who you're playing, like you're still trying to figure out a lot about.
Confirm. No passing touchdowns.
Okay, there you go. So yeah, I don't think you can give a guy a Heisman if he hasn't thrown a passing touchdown in 3 games.
Yeah.
I could be wrong. I mean, he's not a running back, so but yeah, let's chill out and just like let some things develop. And 3 games is, yes, it's it's already like a decent chunk of the season. Unfortunately, goes by super fast.
I mean, he's thrown for 423 yards all season.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Let's calm down.
Pump the brakes. But then, the end of that game. And I know that like Aaron will probably want to do a deep dive into it tonight on the nightcap and the AAC recap. But the end of that game, you got USF is like moving the ball pretty well to get down the field, and then they have a bad snap that moves them to probably the edge of field goal range. I guess their kicker had hit like from 49, so this was at like 48. Then you have a bad snap or you do a little draw play for like 2 yards.
Yeah, that was an interesting 3rd down play call.
I felt like
after your center rolled it back to the quarterback, and you're at like 3rd and 18, and like they've been getting the even weirder part about it is like the Florida corners had been giving Xavier Weaver like 12 yards off the ball. So you would think like, okay, let's just snap it, throw it out to him real quick. I mean, if he gets 6-7 yards, we're easy in field goal range. If he makes a guy miss, he steps out of bounds, and maybe we got a shot to try to go for the win. And like you said, they just like ran a draw like off tackle 2 yards, and then the holder just flat dropped the ball. And I was actually pretty impressed that the kicker still almost made it.
The ball was almost on its side on the ground. I guess he's an Aussie kicker too, so like, I don't know if like whatever, but the ball when the holder caught it, and it like it was almost totally flat on the ground, like sideways when he kicked it, and for one, it made it over the line, which was impressive in and of itself, and then it almost like knuckleballed through the uprights. So much so that like USF's coach thought he made it.
Yeah, it was a very, the old term was Clemsoning before they got things going. It was a very USF ending, because they had a true freshman, and I very much question the Florida play calling on the drive that preceded that, when they were running it right down their throat, and they get the ball like the 3-yard line and throw an out route in the end zone that the true freshman corner for USF picks off. And so both teams had some very, very head scratching plays at the end of the game.
Well, I didn't understand why. So it's going into 3rd and 18. USF snaps the ball, it rolls all the way back there. They have to fall on it. USF only had 1 timeout left, so they were going to have to burn it there. And Florida calls a timeout for them. Yeah, to let them kind of like get things together, and they run a draw play, which made no sense, but it gave them that timeout to be able to run another play outside of like having to rush your field goal unit on the field and try for a 3rd down really long, or like hurry up and throw something to the outside. I don't know. The clock management there at the end of that game was very odd, and obviously the snapping was not going well at all.
Yeah, it was chance for probably, maybe the biggest win. I know they got up into the top 10 back in the old Big East days, fairly late into 1 or 2 seasons, but chance for maybe one of, if not the biggest wins in program history.
Man,
they ran the ball for almost like 300 yards. I mean, they had a good game plan, good offensive attack. But then the other one, Houston, Kansas, and let Aaron and Chad talk about this one more. All I want to say is, like, Houston's got a lot of talent, and they've played 3 competent, solid teams. Like no cheese puffs, no, UTSA, Texas Tech, and Kansas. So none of those teams are great, but none of them are FCS or, bottom of the barrel FBS. But man, you give up 48 points at home to Kansas, who is vastly improved, but like, you should have better players than frickin' Kansas.
Kansas is 3-0. Not all 3-0s are made the same.
I'm hoping game day goes to Kansas. It's 3-0 Kansas versus 3-0 Duke.
Ooh. Matchup with some heavyweights.
Of basketball, yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, there was a fight on their sideline. Yes, like a guy for Houston is shoving another guy down.
Oh yeah.
Like, I thought Nathaniel Dell was out for the year, and he came back in somehow. Like, he looked to have the classic non-contact knee injury on a pass route, and he came back in, so that's good. But like, you have 48 to Kansas. I cannot seriously consider you for conference champion.
Yeah, they are the preseason favorite, right?
Yes. I mean, you needed overtime to beat UTSA or double, whatever it was. You lost to backup quarterback Texas Tech last week, and now you get run out of your own building by the Fighting Jayhawks. So
things are not going well in Houston.
I don't know if there's more injuries that we just don't know about because we don't really follow them especially with not having to play them in the regular season again.
But hopefully the way this is going, we're not going to play them at all this year.
Well, yeah. I mean, they still have a pretty easy conference schedule.
I know they play ECU at ECU.
I know they have to play ECU. I know they have to play SMU. They don't play UCF. They don't play UC.
It's at East Carolina. They're losing.
Oh yeah, that could be a loss. But yeah, it's just everybody talk. A lot of talk about their defensive coordinator too, Doug Belk, who rightfully so. Like last year, they had a pretty strong, pretty good defense, and this year, I don't know what the deal is, but they gave up 48, and dudes were just running open left and right. They were long runs left and right. Dana made one of the most weird decisions I've ever seen. End of the game, they're down 18. It's 4th and goal. He decides to kick a field goal to cut it to 15 and then onside kicks. And they don't get it. So I'm thinking, like, okay, if you're going to kick the field goal and do the whole, like, 2-possession thing, wouldn't you kick it deep? Try to get a 3 and out so you get good field position? Like, I did not understand that at all.
Instead of the high probability onside kick?
Right, that you're not going to recover it. And then the first play after the onside kick, Kansas breaks like a 30-yard run. So it made it even more silly. But yeah, it was just I don't know. They seem to be a mess. We'll just leave it at that.
Yeah, we'll see. We might not end up there. But up the road in South Bend, our boy Marcus Freeman gets his first. He
got his win.
He got his win against Cal.
I'm not sure how much they're, how much
it's a
that
win.
Helps, but a win is a win when you haven't had any.
I was gonna say, as Aaron said last week when everybody was saying, well, like this coach started off 1 and whatever, this coach started off 1 and whatever, like they had a 1 somewhere in there, and now Marcus has his 1. Drew Pine is now the quarterback there, I guess.
Not like we said, like better than Tyler Buckner.
No, but he 17 for 23, 150 yards and 2 touchdowns. A 50.3 QBR. So, but
Sweet.
they were able to win a game. It's one of those things that like you look at something like that where you have Buckner or Pine, and then you listen to like some UC fans that getting bent out of shape down here in our quarterback situation. I think it's better to have what we've got going on than what they have up there in their quarterback room. So
I think that's fair to say.
I mean, that is kind of what it is. There was a great clip of Tommy Rees on the phone with Drew Pine. They showed Drew Pine sitting on the bench, and he's got the phone to his ear, and he's got this like just kind of like dumbfounded look on his face. And Tommy Rees, then they cut up to the coordinator box, and Tommy Rees is screaming into his mic like, like, get it effing together. Like, this team is counting on you. Like, step it the F up. Like, he's like screaming, and you can read his lips. Like, they're like, meep, like cut away real quick from that. But outside of that, they get a win up there, and maybe Marcus Freeman can start working towards. I mean, he's got a good recruit class coming in. So,
oh yeah,
is it still number one in the country?
I don't know if it's still number one, but I think it's definitely might still be top 3.
Jason Cooper brings up a good point. Maybe Luther Richardson would have had a chance at the Notre Dame quarterback job right out of camp.
Maybe. Godspeed.
Godspeed.
Luther.
Right.
Anything else from around the country that caught your eye?
Let me look at my notes here and see if I had anything else.
Arizona got a nice win against North Dakota State late last night. Did not see much of it.
That was probably past my bedtime.
Like 11. But I think North Dakota State was a favorite, which you don't see very many FCS at FBS betting favorites.
Texas A&M beat Miami.
Oh yeah, I watched a little bit of that, and then my eyes started to bleed. So
After
I changed the channel because it was grotesque.
Did they keep replaying the Aggie yell or whatever they do down there?
I don't know, but it was 17-9.
Yes. Yeah.
I'm not watching. Like, there's too many options for me to just watch bad football just because it's two teams we've heard of.
Right. And just because they have a little number next to their name.
Jason, Notre Dame needs Lloyd Carr's grandson to classify to like October 1st this year, not 2023.
Like, he needs to reclassify to Monday, September 19th.
Yeah, exactly. Like, can we enroll him now? And they need to do whatever the hell they can possibly do to get Dante Moore to transfer from to decommit from Oregon and commit to Notre Dame, because they were in the running until the very end. And thanks, Mom. Always nice when your mother jumps in the chat.
Even with the late start, you managed to put down plenty of Jello shots.
Hey, I have a reputation to uphold.
Well done.
But so let's wrap this sucker up with talking about the wonderful Bengals performance last Sunday, where our all-world quarterback looked like he didn't know where to throw the football, and our offensive line looked no different than last year when they had several players that I'm not sure could play for UC in the game.
We talked about it.
It's not surprising when, and I've never been like a big Raylan Zach Taylor guy, but like when you go under center on first down and you run the ball 89% of the time out of that look.
I don't even think it was just on first down. It was any time they went under center.
Oh, maybe. Probably true. Like
18 of 19. I think they took 19 snaps under center.
You're kind of like telling the other team what you're going to do. So it's a lot easier to play defense and rush when TJ Watt knows that this is going to be a run play.
I was going to say, TJ Watt's really, really good. And if he can figure it out to the point where he's almost taking the handoff from Joe Burrow, that's a problem.
Yes.
Like you have all these weapons that we talk about. And I get it. Like T. Higgins went out early with the concussion thing, I guess, from what I saw this morning. He's like, barring any kind of like
I think he's
crazy change this morning, he'll be playing today. Like it just didn't seem like there was a whole lot of like any like wrinkles or any use of the weapons to what they could be used for. And I said, flat out that I thought it was a mistake not playing anybody like together in the preseason. Game speed, we talk about all the time. Game speed is different than practice, even like full pad practice, tackle, whatever. And they don't even do that.
Yeah, I think
minus
there's
like
going
a
to be
little,
maybe a reevaluation of that next year, and maybe it's not like a quarter or two, but I mean at least a series or two. Definitely, like, and the Steelers were the opposite. They went like old school training camp and hit and tackled and did all that, and yet at the end, like, they're in a position to win the game.
right?
I could only laugh at that point, like during the overtime when you're relying on a backup long snapper and
and you don't trust Joe Burrow to get your 8 yards.
Yeah, it was
a comedy of errors at the end. And like I mean, it's a freak injury, obviously, that happens to your your long snapper. Like, a lot of people, I think, don't realize like that. They're like, how do you even get hurt long snapping? You're just snapping the, like, he doesn't just long snap and then like go to the sideline.
Run off
like
to the sideline.
He's actually like typically one of like the first guys down the field. Like they do contribute outside of like their main purpose of snapping the ball. And he tears his bicep, I guess is what happened, and like that's awful. But then you got to go to a guy that's a backup tight end that also maybe snaps as a hobby, and we saw what that does. Like, you could see.
Well, the extra point, the snap was fine. And Darren Simmons even said it. Like, they blocked that up so bad to let the inside guy free like that, to let Minkah Fitzpatrick free. Like,
Drew Sample
that's basic high school. Like, I have a friend that's a high school football coach. Like, that's basic high school football coach. You block everybody wide. Like, you never let that guy come free like that.
Pat McAfee, who knows a little bit about special teams and the kicking game, was talking about it, and said he was going to get into the NFL Films locker to pull up some extra points just to be in field goals, just to show like a compilation of how close people get on perfectly executed point afters. Like, it's within centimeters sometimes, like
milliseconds, right?
And if you watch like the snap was fine. It just wasn't necessarily as quick. Like, I made the comment that normally
it had a little bit of lollipop to it.
Yeah, like normally on like point after snaps back, that kind of thing, like the camera angle, like it almost appears like the ball goes and just like teleports back to the holder. And on that one, you could kind of see it with like you said, like a lollipop back. And I was like, oh no. And then when you put that together with the fact that no one even touched Minkah Fitzpatrick, like Drew Sample whiffed 100%
and he wasn't like coming around the edge and diving. Like, he was not the outside guy.
Yeah, he was inside already, and even still, he barely got his fingertips on it. The ball still went forward.
Yeah,
it still kind of had a chance. And so, I mean, you're talking about just like these little things that were thrown off, and then obviously like kicking the field goal on third down, and it being such a high snap, you wonder, like, as far as like Huber goes, like, why don't you just like take that one and fall forward on it, try to get a couple yards because you're on third down, then you can maybe reset this up again. I don't know. And to McPherson's credit, he said like,
he still,
and like back to Pat McAfee, he said, because like everybody's, I know Aaron brought up there was a whole movie based on Laces Out, and McAfee explained like the ball where the laces are is actually quite a bit softer to kick than the other side of the ball because of the way it's constructed on the inside, and it wraps around the foot a little more. And some like kickers sometimes have a chance to adjust to that because the snap is normal, not high. And whereas like on this one, the snap was high, he caught it, and as soon as he put it down, his foot hit it.
Yeah, he didn't have time to spin it.
He couldn't spin it, and he couldn't McPherson couldn't adjust. he likened
Right.
it to golf. So since this is sponsored by the Royal Links Golf Tours, when if you're hitting a drive and you keep the club face on the ball a little too long, you're likely to hit a beautiful snap hook and end up in the tree somewhere. So it was a comedy of errors. At the end of the day, the Bengals still had a chance to win as bad as they played. I don't expect that they'll play that bad, hopefully.
No, I mean,
at 4 o'clock today.
I don't expect Joe Burrow to have 5 turnovers, and they're playing a backup quarterback. So, and that has been an issue for them in the past. But this defense does seem to be pretty good. I do want to make sure that we accidentally jumped a step. Let's run through some Bearcats in the NFL from week 1.
Sauce had a pretty good week.
Sauce was good, stunner. I think he had 38 coverage snaps, like one completion for 8 yards.
Yes,
and one really nice PBU on Mark Andrews. Alec Pierce, rough first week, dropped touchdown and got a concussion.
Yeah,
out this week.
Is he out this week?
Yeah, he's out. Travis Kelce touchdown in their opener against the Cardinals, and then I don't remember. Did he have a touchdown against the Chargers on Thursday night? I can't remember.
I think it was the first. I think the first touchdown they scored was to him.
First one was to him.
Yes.
Obviously, Forrest. Desmond Ridder not playing yet. Derek Forrest, huge game. I think was he first or second rated safety on PFF this week? He's a starter now. Had an interception, had a forced fumble, a bunch of tackles.
The forced fumble apparently ruined the over on Etienne's receiving yards because he was over on that catch, put him over his receiving yards, but because it was a reception and then a fumble that he knocked back like 15 yards, and he lost those receiving yards and then some. So it put him in the under. That's a bad beat right there.
Yes.
Kelce had 5 catches, 51 yards, no touchdowns.
No touchdowns
against the Chargers.
I thought he had one, but I was wrong. Thanks, Aaron.
Yeah, I'm super interested to just see what happens with Sauce as the year goes on.
Well, he's going to run into some pretty decent receivers.
What, starting next week? Don't they play the Bengals or something?
Yeah. Do they play? They don't play. Do they play the Bengals? Is it next week?
Is it next week?
Aaron, do you have that?
But
that's going to be one of those ones where, like, you're going to have, like, wherever he moves on the field, he's going to be lined up against.
Yes, next week.
So he's going to be lined up against, obviously probably Jamar, and then, if they move him off that over to, I can't imagine that they'll move him necessarily off of.
He's going to stay on the outside, and they've moved Jamar line. They're moving him into the slot more to create.
Yeah.
Because everybody's going to play
some
cover
havoc.
2 and shade to him. But yeah, I'm trying to think. Let's see who else. I think Kobe had a rough.
Yeah, I'd gotten a message at some point that he had just gotten burned for a touchdown over the weekend. So
yeah, Jerry Jeudy kind of ran by him for one. One that I did want to look at was he's been got some run in the preseason. Mike Boone did not get any carries for the Broncos the other night. He had a 1 catch for 2 yards. But he had a nice preseason. It's kind of their, I guess, third running back.
I know. I heard some rumblings on some of these NFL shows. Like there was one they were going down. They were just like listing quarterback names off. Yeah, and when they said Mariota, they were like, "Nah, bad vibes. Get him out of there." I was like, "Yeah, get him out of there. Bring Dez in. Give Dez."
They played pretty well. They had some interesting things on their end, keep them from getting a win. Self inflicted, I would say, from a coaching standpoint, but they were giving it to the Saints pretty good. But no, I think that about covers it. There weren't too many high level, performances. Josiah DeGuara had 2 catches for 28 yards against the Vikings for the Packers.
I mean, outside of Derek Forrest, like sealing the game off, and kind of like there wasn't anything that like that, and obviously like I hate to say what Sauce did wasn't like extraordinary, but it's one of those things. Like it comes back to what we talked about at the beginning of the show. It's like Bearcat fans kind of expect those.
Jason Kelsey anchored a line that ran for 216 yards and 4 touchdowns.
Their podcast is awesome.
Against the Lions.
The Kelsey Brothers podcast.
Yeah.
It's pretty good.
Nice.
They go back and forth. And
I saw Travis was wearing like a UC,
like the hockey jersey
thing this week.
Yep. So we'll see. We got the Bengals and the Cowboys today against
little afternooner. I like those.
The 4:30. It is good because my other son has a soccer game at 2, so I'll be there, but it will be wrapped up long before the Bengals start playing, which is excellent, and not like right in the middle of the game.
Well, hope you get a big win.
They won't.
No, not good.
It's not like 7-on-7 first grade soccer, second grade soccer. So it's a lot of like the ball is there, so everyone on the field is there.
You gotta bribe him with something for goals.
Oh no, he gets his Minecraft coins or whatever. Like he gets, and he's like one of the bigger kids out there. I tried to get him to play football this year, and he was like, I don't know if I want to play football. But then he was at his brother's game yesterday, like smashing into the sled. So maybe next year.
Maybe next year. But I think that about does it. I'm going to be back in Nippert this week. It's going to be rough because we're going to have 3 games in a row in Cincinnati, which will, even though one is not a home game, and we're going to go for a little bit without we're back to like the rotation moving forward. But thank you again, everyone, for joining. We really appreciate it. Having a lot of fun. Thanks for interacting. Please make sure. I think everything is back up and running normally with iTunes. So if that's where you listen to this, please check us out, rate, subscribe to our YouTube page, give us a review. Everything helps. And we will see you again next Sunday for another edition of Bearcat Brunch.